Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I thought I would paint a simple bird. It's a nice warm-up exercise. So grab your watercolors and a piece of paper and join along. The paper I'm using, now you can use whatever you like, but this is some handmade paper by the company Shenzhen. It's very affordable. I picked it up at a little shop called Fiddleheads in Belfast, Maine, but you can also find it on Amazon, and I believe Blick also carries it. And it comes in a bunch of different ways, but what I like to do is get the I think it's 5x7 sheets, because they are pre-cut and you get like a pack of 50, I think, or 25. You get a pretty big pack of them for not a lot of money. I think it might be 50 sheets or maybe even 100 sheets. I think it's like 100 sheets maybe for 20 bucks. Don't quote me on that. I'll try to find a link for you. But I just like it because they're cut down, they're ready to go, and they are very heavily textured. This is the cold press surface, and they're very, you can probably see that on camera how rough that is. Anytime you have a handmade paper, they tend to be a lot rougher than the like the mold made or machine made counterparts. I'm going to start off with this yellow ochre color. You could use raw sienna, yellow ochre, whatever you have. And I am going to make a stroke down the back of my bird. Okay, I haven't drawn anything. I'm just going to keep this very, very loose. And then I want to make a shape for the head, so I'm just going to make kind of like a semicircle here. And I'm going to do a shape. I'm just going to do a stroke that's like shoulder down the belly to the butt, the bird butt. I'm sure there are proper names. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that ochre color, and I'm going to mix it with some ultramarine. I'm going to clean my brush though. Get this kind of gray going. Add a little bit of this red. I'd say it's a red iron oxide here to gray it down. And I am going to pull up some feathers, some tail feathers. Like that. I'm using a cat's tongue brush because I can get the same strokes I can get from a flat and a circle, kind of all in one. But you could use a round. You could use round, use whatever you have. And I want to get some of that pretty gray color also on the wing. And I'm going to mix it up a little bit darker, the ultramarine blue and the iron oxide, and put a beak right there. And now I want to grab, actually I want to do a little bit more with that wing. So the colors I'm using are actually Chinese watercolors, so they don't flow as much, and they're really nice on paper that has less sizing, such as handmade watercolor paper. I'm going to grab some of this kind of scarlety color here. And I'm going to add a little bit to the front of the head, into the neck, and then I'm going to push out the chest area. I'm going to bring that color on the back a little bit. And now I'm going to put in a branch because I feel like he needs to be sitting. I need to get that in there. And I'm going to take a mix of the iron oxide and burnt umber, and I'm going to start it kind of coming down, making it kind of like a broken branch. It just kind of goes off the paper. I want to give some leaves to the branch. I'm going to grab some of this bright yellow here, mix it in with some of this phthalo green, Some really nice and easy stroke leaves. This is probably a big brush for the size of leaves I'm trying to do here, but you can also do that with a round brush. Tip of the brush, press and lift. Tip of the brush, press and lift. Just make sure you move your brush as you go. All right, I'm going to grab some of that golden paint that we used, that bright yellow, and I want to add some more of that onto the bird, onto the back and onto the head, maybe even a little bit onto the belly. And a little streak of it into the tail too. I'm going to mix some more pasty paint so it's less watery. I'm going to take the ultramarine and the iron oxide and extend the beak out just a little bit. Now, of course, you could pre-draw everything, but I've just been kind of wanting to keep it a little bit looser. And get those tail feathers in there. Maybe hint at feet right there. All right, I kind of like the way that looks. It's pretty simple. I feel like I might like to have a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of color in the background. Let me take a couple of these blues. Just soften the edges. Can let some of the color of the bird leak out as well. Do a little bit of green towards the bottom. Just give it a little bit of a setting, a little bit of a and maybe even a little bit of a frame. Maybe a little bit of yellow. I like that yellow color. Kind of camouflage the bird a little bit with some yellow. Almost looks like he's got like a, oh, you know, like a peacock has those plumes. Kind of fun to do these loose sketches every once in a while. Now I'm going to let this dry, and I'll go back in and I will add back in some of the details after it's all dry. All right, look how pretty and soft this is. I actually really like that the way it is, but it definitely needs a little bit of detail. So I've got some of the white watercolor. I just added a little bit of water to my brush and got it activated. And I am just going to put a little highlight where the eye should be. And a little highlight on the nose, the beak. And I also have a liner loaded up. I'm not sure which one I'm going to like the most. This little round is doing pretty well, so I might just stick with this. So I'm just going to do the little details that I see on the wing. when you have a set of Chinese watercolors, China colors, not just colors made in China, but they're called China colors, they have a little bit more opacity. They're thicker. They're meant for working on like a rice paper or another porous paper, so they respond really well for this. If you're using traditional watercolors, you might want to use like a gouache or like a Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. That will work really well in that instance. Excuse me. Let me just see how the liner is going to respond if I use that on like the tail feathers. So that works good too. I get a nice thin line with the liner. And I'd like to do a little bit. Oh, that's giving me too much. Too much paint up there. That's all right. I'll be able to lift some of that out. Get rid of the googly eye. Actually, I might just be able to blot it out while it's still wet. I softened that enough, I think. So now I'm going to go in with our mix where we did the red oxide and ultramarine blue. You could also use a black. I mean, there's no rule, especially if you're doing like a Chinese style of painting. They use black all the time. A lot of times they'll do black in one color. It'll be much more like muted. I do want to be able to shift this a little bit more brown for these spots on the back. A little shadow under the wing. And go around the eye. Take a little bit of that yellow and I'm going to add it in with the white. That nice bright color on the back of the head. And flick that kind of in around the eye because there is more red there that I want to get in. Take advantage of what these paints will do. Take advantage of that, that Chinese style. I'm going to grab some of this orangey red. And back into the scarlet, mix that in with the orangey red. And I mean, it's up to you how much detail you want to put in there, how much color. Get a little bit of yellow into the tail feathers, and a little bit into the wing. I just want the idea of this bird just kind of existing as part of the surroundings. And I think I want just like a stroke of brown in the eye as well. Whoops, I got a bead of water there. You don't want that. Right, I think I kind of want to leave this the way it is, to be honest. Well, the eye needs a little bit more definition. And the beak could be a little bit bigger, so let's just maybe let's just maybe hit that with the heat tool real quick so we can go in and add a little more to the beak and a little more to the eye. You know what? I think I will go in with black. I think there's a few little details I'd like to do with the pure black. So let's do that. Also, something about this paper that I want to mention is that one side of the paper tends to be sized a little bit more than the other. And ideally, you want to be working on that side with a little more sizing. It's not that big of a deal if you're doing a painting like this, but if you're going like really wet into wet, if you're on the wrong side of the paper that doesn't have as much sizing, you can get this kind of like really chunky, blobby look to it. Let me make sure I don't have any water on the ferrule. And it's not that nice looking. So that's something to keep in mind. I think probably whatever's, if you've got a pad of it, whatever is facing up in the pad is probably the right side. This kind of has like a beak, like a finch. That looks about right. I'm going to do a couple of the little, kind of detail strokes. You get the foot here, just a little bit of a little detail there. Some of this brighter yellow, the mid yellow, and a little bit of the white. I just want to get a little bit of a definition. And pick up some of that scarlet and also get that on top of the head. There we go. Let's see, can I use that scarlet maybe right here? I like to bring colors around and kind of cross-pollinate everything, but I also don't want to get too deep in the weeds. Oh, you know what would be pretty? Actually, a shadow on the bottom side of that branch. I'm going to use colors I've already used. I'm going to use this mix here. I'm going to use a little bit of black because I've already used the black, and it's just going to help everything just kind of work. And I'm only going to do that shadow around the bird so that it makes sense why it's there. And I think I'm going to leave it. I don't like that swoosh of paint off the head, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is because I think correcting that might make it worse. I don't think I could scrub it out on this paper because it's not very sized. I mean, I could go in with some white. Well, you know what? We could try that. We could try going in with some white and see how that looks. It might be fine. Let's give it a try. I actually could use some watercolor ground if I wanted to, but I'll just do this. And of course, if I do this here, I'm going to want to add that somewhere else so it doesn't like stick out like a sore thumb. So I'll just kind of throw in a little bit of white elsewhere in the sky. There we go. Actually, I do think that looks better. Okay, I'm glad I took a chance with that. I think that looks better. Maybe even a little bit more blue, since I went in and added a little more white to that. Maybe a little bit more blue in the sky. That's a little strong. I don't want to get, I don't want to make a mud. I'm just going to blend that out. I like it though. I like those little dabs. Sometimes it takes you just as long to paint a simple painting as it does a more complex one because you have to, you know, you're not going to use so many strokes, so you have to plan them out a little bit better. All right, I'm going to call that done. For reals this time, friends. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I did. I thought it was a great, fun warm-up exercise, and I hope it inspires you to get those brushes wet today and do a little painting. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked this tutorial, and until next time, happy crafting!